Today we're going to be making the Paris Peplum Dress by Retro Sparkle Designs. This pattern is intended for knit fabrics. Today I'm going to be making the peplum version, but we're going to start off with 2 main bodices, 2 lining bodices, as well as 2 straps, and then 3 bodice straps. Making sure that your bodice straps are cut on the fold. We will also need one of the skirt portion, so either the skirt for the dress or the peplum length. Please note for the bodice portions, you can either cut 2 on fold or 4 not on fold. For today's video, I will also be using a pair of scissors, a turning tool of your choice, clips, and a safety pin. Today we're going to start off with the neck straps. Placing them right sides together, we're going to clip along the long edge. Once we have that done, we're also going to place 1 clip at the top corner, leaving the very bottom corner free so we can turn that right sides out. Once we have the tops and the sides sewn of both neck straps, we're going to go ahead and use our tool to flip those right sides out. Once we have both of those turned right sides out, we're going to set them aside and pull out the bodice straps. And we're going to do basically the same thing, starting by folding the bodice straps right sides together. And then we're going to go ahead and clip along the long sides of the bodice straps. Once we get to the other end, we are also going to place a clip there as well. Once we've done that, we're going to go and find about the halfway mark of that strap, so the middle piece of the strap, and we're going to clip off, like I'm doing here with my yellow clips, about 1 inch. This is where we're going to flip this strap right sides out. Then we're going to do the same exact steps to the other 2 bodice straps. Once we have all 3 of those clipped, including both short ends on each strap, we're going to go ahead and sew those together. Personally, I like to start at the short end, chain off a bit, and then place it back under my pressure foot and continue along the rest of the bodice strap. Once we get to the yellow clips, I will remove those, go ahead and stop, lift up the pressure foot and my needles, pull the fabric out and chain off. And then I'm going to pull the second clip off, place that fabric back underneath my pressure foot with a decent amount of gap, so about 1 inch gap you can eyeball, and then continue sewing along the rest of the strap. Once we get close to the opposite end, we're going to do the same thing that we did at the beginning. Chain off and place it back under your pressure foot and sew along that short edge. And then I'll just chain off and cut the excess off of that. Here is what the bodice straps are going to look like when you're finished sewing. The 1 inch gap as well as both ends of that strap sewn together. Then we're going to go ahead and take our turning tool and turn these straps right sides out using that 1 inch gap to pull the strap through. Once we have the one side done, we're going to do the same exact thing to the other side of that strap. Once that's finished, we'll go ahead and repeat those same steps with the other 2 remaining bodice straps. Now that all 3 of the straps are turned right sides out, I'm going to go ahead and grab my clips, and then I'm going to find that hole from where we turned that right sides out, and we're going to pin that in place. Once we have all 3 of the straps pinned in place, we're going to go ahead and top stitch over the opening holes of the bodice straps to close them up, making sure I'm back stitching the beginning of that top stitch as well as the end of the top stitch. We're going to go ahead and top stitch all 3 bodice straps. Once we have all 3 of those done, we'll go ahead and set those aside for now. If you cut the skirt in 2 portions, you're going to go ahead and place the right sides together and sew along the side seams. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just take the bottom portion of my peplum and fold it 1/2 inch over and clip all the way around. Once we have that fully clipped, we're going to go in and hem it, either top stitch with your cover stitch or go in with your normal sewing machine. Now we're going to be needing our lining bodice piece and our main bodice piece, and what we're going to do is we're going to clip them right sides together. If you cut 2 on the fold instead of 4 not on the fold, you will go ahead and skip this step. Once we have both the main and the lining bodice clipped together, we're going to go ahead and sew along those raw edges. Now that those are sewn together, we're going to open them up with the right sides facing up. Then we're going to go ahead and take our neck straps and place those on the lining bodice where the pattern had notches marked. Now we're going to take the main bodice piece and place that on top of the lining bodice piece and clip those together, ensuring that the main and the lining bodice are right sides together. Once we have it clipped all the way along that top raw edge, we're going to go ahead and sew it together. Now we're going to take that bodice piece and lay it out flat. Flipping it over to where right sides are faced up, we're going to fold over the edge of both sides 1/2 inch and clip that down. Once both sides are clipped into place, we're going to go ahead and top stitch that. Now that both sides of the bodice are top stitched, we're going to go ahead and fold it together with wrong sides together. And we're going to go ahead and place clips at each one of the line marks from the pattern piece. There should be 6 total for your bodice. Once both sides of the bodice are clipped together at your line markers, I personally like going and clipping the top edge to keep that from folding over, so the fabric can lay as flat as possible. Here I already have my first 2 casing lines sewn in. So now I'm going to go ahead and just place at that marker and sew straight along that bodice piece to create another casing hole. We will do this for all 6 lines provided on the pattern piece, so we have a place to feed our bodice straps through. Once we have all 6 casing seams sewn in, I'm going to go ahead and clip along the bottom raw edge. Here I'm going to stitch along with my normal sewing machine since I am sewing over 2 layers to create a ruffle at the bottom so that this can fit a little better on the skirt portion. Next, we're going to take our bodice straps and a safety pin, and we're going to feed the safety pin through the edge of the strap. Now, skipping the first gap, we're going to go into the second one, feeding the bodice strap all the way across the bodice. With the second strap, we're going to go ahead and skip another gap and feed into the next. And same thing with the last or the third strap, skipping one gap and feeding into the next. Since I am gathering the bottom of my top with my normal sewing machine, I'm just going to grab the bobbin thread and pull the fabric tight. And that is going to create the gathered ruffled look for me. Once I have that gathered to my liking, I'm going to go ahead and put the top wrong sides together and tie the bodice straps as well as the next strap to keep them out of my way for the next step. Now that I have those tied together and out of the way, we're going to go ahead and grab our skirt piece. Having right sides together on the skirt piece, we're going to go ahead and open it up and place the bodice in there, making sure that right sides are together while doing this. And then we're going to go ahead and just clip along the seams. When you get to the point of the side seams where the ties are, make sure that you're butting those up next to each other. Now we're just going to go ahead and sew around that seam. Now that the bodice and the skirt are sewn together, I'm going to take the piece that I chained off, feed it through a needle, and I'm going to hide that tail through my seam. making sure to pull that tight and then trimming off the excess. Now I'm going to go in and retie the bodice straps, pulling them tighter to give the top that more ruched look. And now we have completed the Paris Peplum Dress pattern. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also join us on Instagram and Facebook, as well as joining our VIP group to share all of your beautiful creations with the rest of us. Thank you so much for sewing along with me today.